What have you been sitting on? Not planning to sit on, not considering sitting on? What is the thing, the idea, the community, the project, the gift that has been fully formed in your head for months, maybe years, and has not moved an inch toward the world? I'm asking because I am actually in it right now. I have several things I know I'm supposed to build. There are books I keep carrying in pieces. There are mentorship structures I can already see clearly. There are resources that could actually help people if I stop waiting for the perfect version. All of it is clear. All of it is ready to begin, but because none of it feels perfect yet. And I've been calling that wisdom. I do not think it's wisdom though. I think it's something else. And I think one of the first commands God ever gave humanity has something directly to say about it. This is when wisdom becomes a hiding place. Here is the assumption most of us are carrying, and nobody handed it to us in one clear moment. It accumulated through sermons about counting the cost, through well-meaning advice about moving before God says go, through watching people launch things too early and fail publicly, through a version of stewardship that got quietly redefined as do not release anything until it's ready. The assumption sounds like this: waiting is wisdom, preparing more is faithful, holding it until it's perfect is good stewardship. And on the surface, that sounds responsible. It sounds mature. It sounds like the kind of thing a serious believer would say. But I want to push on it because I think for some of us, and I am including myself in this, what we are calling wisdom is sometimes something we have never been honest enough to name. So let's start here. Being fruitful was not a suggestion. Genesis 1:28. God had just created human beings in his image. He establishes identity first. You are image bearers. You carry the likeness of the Creator. And then before anything else, before a preparation period, before a proven season, he gives a command. The Hebrew root parah means to bear fruit, to produce something that increases beyond itself. It's not an imperative, not a suggestion, not a reward for a perfect version of humanity. It's a command given at the very beginning, before humanity has accomplished anything, before there was a track record to point to, before anyone had proven they were ready. And because scripture places this command so early, we should not treat it like a decorative detail. Fruitfulness is part of the human vocation from the beginning. It is not something you graduate into. It is something you were made for. And the word itself carries something most translations flatten. Parah is not just about production. It is about reproduction. Fruit is not only for the tree that grew it. It nourishes someone else and it carries seed. The apple does not just feed you, it carries the potential for an entire orchard. And an orchard is just a whole place filled with fruit trees. So in plain language, one apple does not only feed one person, it carries seed that can become more trees, more fruit, and more people fed long after the first apple is gone. So when God says be fruitful, he is not saying produce something impressive. He is saying produce something that carries the capacity to nourish and reproduce beyond itself. That idea you've been meaning to build, the course, the book, the business, the mentorship, the resource, the community, the conversation you know needs to happen. It is not just about the thing itself. It carries seeds for what other people may eventually build from it. That skill that you have been developing but not deploying, it is not just for you. It carries seeds for the people who will learn from watching you use it. That thing you keep saying you will release when it's ready. It is not just a project, it's a seed. And every day it sits unreleased, the people who could be nourished by it keep waiting too. This does not mean every idea in your head is an assignment from God now. Some ideas need counsel, some need pruning, some actually need to die. I am talking about the thing you already know you are hiding from, and you know the difference. Now, let's take this concept a little deeper, because there's fruit that looks good but feeds nobody. I want to give you a framework for thinking about what we produce, not to diagnose the church, but to ask an honest question about what some of us have learned to offer. Think about fruit, not as a metaphor, an actual thing. There are three versions of fruit you encounter. The first is organic, grown the way it was supposed to be grown, full of nutrients, real fiber, the vitamins and compounds that actually do something when they get inside of you. When someone consumes it, it heals, it strengthens, it builds. That is what it was designed to do. The second is conventional, what most of us buy at the regular grocery store. It looks identical to the organic version. Same shape, same color, same section of the store. But something got introduced in the growing process that interferes with what the fruit was meant to do. It still looks like fruit. It just does not carry what fruit was designed to carry. The third is artificial. Plastic fruit in a bowl on someone's kitchen table. It looks like the most perfect of all three. No bruises, no imperfections, always the right color, but it offers nothing. You cannot eat it. You cannot be nourished by it. It exists purely for appearance. Now, I want to ask you an honest question. Is some of what you have learned to produce as believers falling into one of those last two categories? Because I think some of us have learned to look fruitful without actually carrying anything that nourishes. The language is right, the posts are right, the attendance is right, but the people around us are not being fed by anything we carry. No fiber that heals someone's thinking, no vitamins that help the people around us do better and become better. Just the appearance of fruit with none of the benefits. Then there's the conventional version. Sincere people who genuinely want to produce something real. But something got into the growing process, inherited theology that makes believers forget who the text says they are. Some inherited frameworks have quietly trained sincere people to measure faithfulness by performance instead of fruit. A version of faith that teaches us to live as though God's attention has to be earned, as though there are enough steps, enough words, enough consistency required before the assignment becomes valid. And that framework, when it gets into the root, that does not just affect behavior, it affects identity. It produces believers who are sincere but stuck, who want to produce but have been told in 100 subtle ways that they are not quite enough yet. But here's what the text actually says. Part of the problem is that many of us inherited a picture of God that Genesis 1 itself challenges. The God of Genesis 1 made humanity to resemble him. He looked at what he made and called it very good. Before anyone had performed anything, before anyone had proven anything, you were made in the image of the one who spoke worlds into existence. And one of the first things he told humanity to do was not to maintain what exists, not to wait until they're worthy. It was be fruitful. We honestly need to question any framework that makes God seem less generous than the text reveals him to be. So I need you to understand this. Your identity has less friction than ever. Fruitfulness is not frantic productivity. I do think this generation has a specific responsibility that previous generations do not carry in the same way. Because the friction that used to exist between the idea and the output is much smaller than what it used to be. I'm not bringing this up because technology is the answer. I am bringing it up because some of our excuses are practical and tools affect practical excuses. Building something used to require a lot more permission, money, technical help, and time. Writing a book used to feel like you had to wait for someone to choose you. Testing a business idea used to require a lot more guessing and a lot less feedback. That gap is much smaller than it used to be. I use AI tools like Claude, if you've ever heard of it, ChatGPT, depending on the task, not because they replace discernment or courage or formation, but because they reduce the friction between the idea and the first honest version of it. If you have an idea, a business, a course, a book, a mentorship, a resource, or a message you know you need help to shape, an AI tool can help you draft a first honest version. It can help you figure out where to start, what the first offer could be, what people in your field and your area are actually charging, what a competitive price might look like, what questions your audience are already asking, what content would help them, and what simple first step you could release. So you are not starting from zero. If you have content you want to create, but do not know where to start, speak your idea out loud. Hand it to a tool to help you shape it. You are still the one with the idea. You are still the one with the assignment. The tool does not replace discernment, wisdom, or courage. It just removes some of the friction between the idea and the first real version. I want to be clear about what it is not. This is not about turning every gift into a brand. Some fruit is a conversation. Some fruit is a room. Some fruit is a resource. Some fruit becomes a business. The point is service, not status. Real can be improved. Perfect that never launches cannot be improved because it does not exist yet. Okay, so now let's talk about fear that learned how to sound spiritual. I want to be careful here because not all delay is fear. Some of you are tired. Some of you are under-resourced. Some of you are healing from something that cost you more than you expected. Some of you are carrying people, family, responsibilities, grief that makes movement genuinely hard. Some of you are discerning whether a desire is an actual assignment. I am not talking about the delay that comes from wisdom or exhaustion or real life complexity. I am talking about the delay that has no finish line, the delay that always needs one more thing before it is ready, the delay that, if you are honest, it's not really about preparation at all. For some of us, and I am in this, what we have been calling stewardship is actually a very sophisticated version of fear. We dress it up. We gave it a theological wardrobe. We call it wisdom, preparation, waiting on God, counting the cost. And some of those things are real. Wisdom is real. Preparation is real. Waiting on God is real. But here is how you can tell the difference. Wisdom produces movement, even if it is slow. Fear produces stillness and calls it patience. Preparation has a finish line, even if it keeps adjusting. Fear has no finish line because the goal is never to actually launch. Waiting on God has a posture of readiness. Fear has a posture of hiding. The problem is not always that God is waiting for a more impressive version of us. Sometimes the problem is that we are waiting for a level of certainty he never promised. When perfectionism keeps useful fruit locked away, that is not stewardship. It starts becoming hoarding, dressed up as humility. I say that about myself first. I have studied more than most people I know. I can help you build almost anything. I have been doing it for other people while my own assignments sit in a notebook. For me, that is not faithfulness. That is fear with religious language. So let's name the thing. Jesus told a parable about a fig tree. A man came looking for fruit 3 years in a row, nothing. And he said, cut it down. Why should it use up soil? And yes, the gardener intercedes and asks for more time. But even that mercy does not erase the question underneath. Why is it using up the soil? It reminds us that fruit matters. The capacity to produce something was not given just to sit there. Fruitfulness is not just output, it is life that nourishes beyond itself. You have been given time. You have been given gifts. You have been given tools no generation before ever had access to. You have been given the image of the Creator Himself. And one of the first things Scripture shows God saying to humanity before a track record, before any performance, before proof was be fruitful. Produce something that carries seed. Build the thing that builds other things. Release the thing that releases other things. You were not made to look like fruit. You were made to carry the real thing, the kind that actually nourishes, the kind that carries seed, the kind that when someone encounters it, changes something in them. So here is the one thing I want you to do. Before you watch anything else today, name the thing, name the perfect version of it, the honest version, one sentence. What is the thing you have been holding that was never meant to stay in your hands? Name it, not with a perfect plan, not with a finished product, with honesty, because this is where it starts.